Emma Wolf, and by the broadcaster Pete Price. Good morning, Peter and Emma. Thank you very much for being with us on this Saturday morning, and happy Saturday to you. All right, let's kick off with the Daily Mail. We'll start with you, Emma. We've got the Mail headline there and a lovely picture of Prince Louis, but we'll start with the text. Boris, I'll send in our tanks. This is the news that Boris Johnson is planning on a bit of a tank swap with Poland, yeah?
Absolutely. So we know that we have the UK has been at the forefront of Ukraine and
sorry, Emma,
it's quite an escalation.
Sorry, your line's a little weak there. I think the signal might be going. Just carry on. We'll persevere through it for now, but if not, I'll bring Pete in. Just go again, Emma. Sorry.
Okay. So this is being seen as a major escalation in the UK efforts in terms of our support for Ukraine. Boris Johnson says it's essential to step up our military assistance, and he's also warning there's a realistic possibility that Russia could win the war if we don't really support Ukraine. And obviously President Zelensky has been begging the West for more heavy weapons to combat the new onslaught across the eastern region, the Donbass region. And so Boris Johnson is announcing that we may well be sort of backfilling, which means sort of sending Challenger tanks to Poland in order that they can send some of their older tanks to Ukraine to support that effort against this onslaught from the Kremlin.
Yeah, and Pete, I mean, your thoughts on that story? This is the Russian T-72s due to be going into Ukraine. I mean, there was talk earlier in the war of MiGs being sent. That was kind of nixed at the time. I know there is some concern about sending tanks, not least from the Germans.
Yeah, it's interesting because you say happy Saturday. There's nothing happy about it looking at the papers today. It's quite a scary world we're living in. I don't think we will ever get to the bottom of this. Whatever we're told, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. However good the journalists are, we do not know, because the story we're going into next is about Russia, France and Germany actually selling weapons, and there's a UN-wide embargo in 2014.
Now, that's the Telegraph front page, isn't it?
Yeah, the reason for that is, which is tying into what you've just been talking about, is we don't know what's going on. When there is a war, and they need a war to clear out old stock, you see, it's that cynical. People are dying, and we're seeing it every day. And we don't know what countries. We've just been told that France and Germany are doing it. But we don't know what other countries are, because they need to get rid of their old stock. That's why we have wars. It's that cynical. It's so cynical. And of course, jobs are created, more money is created, the power is created. But we don't know really what's going on. We don't know who's supplying who. We also hear that because of the gas supplies, which is £1 billion a day apparently France and Germany are giving, so they won't rock the boat there. We don't know what's going on. We just see people slaughtered on television, on Sky News, and it's the most frightening world we're living in right now.
You're absolutely right. I mean, Emma, pick up on some of that. I mean, it is a really concerning time, isn't it? And there is this, I mean, it's more than fog of war, isn't it, this sort of stuff that Pete's talking about there. This is about the way that nations sort of trade with each other, and then we find out about through journalism.
Of course, and when it comes to heavy tanks and artillery and what's defensive and what's offensive and all of these, sort of fine lines and fine decisions, it's extremely hard for those of us who are not technical experts or military experts to really grasp what's going on. And at the root of it all is, thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of human lives being lost. So it's a devastating situation to be in, and all we can do is watch, and more, across the papers today, Kamali, more mass graves being uncovered. Mariupol, to give an example, Bucha, all these places are absolutely terrible atrocities being uncovered, and we feel impotent and we watch, and what more can we do?
A really concerning time to be alive. All right, let's move on to another story. It's not going to make us feel much happier, though. This is your pick from inside page of The Guardian, Emma. This is a line here. I'll just read out the headline. More than 7 in 10 people in England have now had COVID, says ONS. A friend of mine had it. He was testing positive for 15 days.
friends of mine who survived the entire pandemic and didn't get COVID are now getting it. It's sort of like a mopping up operation. No one will go free of this virus. It's amazing. So this is the ONS reporting that more than 7 in 10 people have had COVID, and that's in England, but also across the nation. So Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, also pretty high, up to 50-60%. The bottom line is most people in the UK have now had COVID. It's a pandemic, it's across the age groups as well, so the older populations that were not getting infected because of their high rates of vaccination have also, those figures have been going up. But there is good news, Kamali. The good news is that rates are now falling, hospitalisations are falling, and death rates are falling. So there is possibly light at the end of the tunnel. Although these figures don't even factor in the Omicron wave. So once you factor in the recent Omicron wave, the figures are probably going to be a lot higher than 70%.
Which is just incredible, isn't it, Pete? I mean, mostly, as Emma said there, it does seem as if the death rates are slightly lower than, what we tragically became used to at the real peak of the outbreak. But people are still getting it, and people are still getting quite sick from it.
Yeah, but we now got to treat it like flu. People are dying from flu. I think the last figures were 7,500. We never hear about that. We've got to get on with it. And too many people are using the pandemic and using COVID to get out of work because they don't want to work, because they've had enough of it. We've got to start treating it now like flu. We've got through the worst part until the next variant of the virus. I told you it was negative today.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just pick up on what you said there. I'm sure that people who have got COVID and have got the symptoms have been sick from it. They're not trying to sneak off work, are they? Come on.
No. Some of them are. I'm sorry, some of them are. You'll always get the dead weights. That just get on with it. But no, there's a lot of people poorly. But there's also a lot of people poorly with flu. Very poorly with flu. And they're carrying on.
Okay, all right, Pete, that's your opinion on that. Thank you very much for that. Let's move on to your next story here. This is in the Eye. It's about supply chains, isn't it? The UK has 6 weeks until new supply chain crisis. Of course, we're used to this sort of just-in-time system, and when we had that ship that was blocking the Suez Canal, everyone was missing out on their deliveries. So this is a real crisis that's coming again, isn't it, Pete?
500 ships outside the biggest port in China, because China are in lockdown for 3 weeks with COVID. And as we know, and we've seen on Sky News, that when China go into lockdown, they go into lockdown, and it's a proper lockdown. It is very worrying because so many things come from China. So these ships are waiting, they're getting no cargo, which is going to be a knock-on effect. But on the good side, an awful lot of people are going to make an awful lot of money, because I'm sorry to be cynical today, but I really feel cynical. An awful lot of money, because the prices will go up because it will suit them. It's a great excuse to bung the prices up, but it's frightening. 500 ships outside the biggest port in the world waiting to get supplies to give to us and the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's a really concerning time. All right, Peter and Emma, for now, just leave it there, but you're coming back later on in the programme. I do appreciate your time for now. Now, of course, we're going to have plenty more from both Peter and Emma later on in the programme, but let me just bring you the very latest news that we have here on Sky News Breakfast. New satellite images have been released by the satellite company Maxar that appear to show mass graves having been dug outside of the Ukrainian city of Mariupol. President Zelensky again is warning that Russia's invasion was just the beginning.